So I'm going to show you how to remove the flywheel, change the stator and flywheel, and time it. Do the timing on it. Find top dead center, use a strobe light, all of that good stuff. So here we go. So I had already taken the fan cover off, but just so you know, yeah, to do that, there is a screw there where there's a ground to the battery. And then there's a screw there, and that's a socket screw. And then screw there. I put those back in, or it doesn't matter. Those screws will be out when you're doing this. Next, just take a flathead screwdriver and remove the nut hub. Just like, boom, that. To take off that side screw, you need a 10mm socket drive. So when you're unscrewing the bottom screw from the fan cover, this part sits in front of the fan cover, so it's going to pop out. Just put that to the side for now. Next, you're going to take this flywheel holder, and I'll list a link to the parts at the bottom of the video, but you're going to take this and you're going to screw it in to the side two screws. I might have this upside down. I'll see in a second. I've only got one hand, obviously, so you're going to screw this in so that it holds that in place. Alright, there's what that looks like. And then you're going to take a 19mm socket drive, and you can take the flywheel nut off. I'm somewhat of a wimp, so I'm going to have to step on this to get it started. There we go. Just take that off. Boom. Now it's time for my most favorite tool ever. Woohoo! Flywheel extractor. Yeah, once again, I'll list the parts. So, okay, so screw this in to the flywheel like that. It's pretty tight. Well, let's do it as tight as we can. Okay, that's in tight. All right, so next, this is the weird part. All right, so you're gonna get a wrench. This one I can adjust. So it's almost an inch right there, you can see. So what you're gonna do is hold the wrench on here. Don't move the wrench. The wrench is gonna keep that part in place. You're gonna keep turning this clockwise. It sounds weird, but what it's doing is pushing the flywheel off of the shaft right there. So this is pushing in and it's popping that out. And I can't do this with one hand, but you'll feel it kind of give. It might make a little pop when it's released the flywheel. All right, so it just popped, and obviously, you know, it's kind of pulling off of right there. You can see how it's pulling off by the flywheel holder as well. So, all right, we're done with that part. And the next thing you want to do is take the flywheel holder off. So next, you're gonna pull the flywheel off. I tried to pull it off by the sides, but the magnet force is too strong, so pull it off by the extractor. Just pull it straight off. Then you can unscrew the extractor from the flywheel. To unscrew the extractor, you're going to need to use your wrench on the inner part right there. I can't do this with one hand, but counterclockwise at that point. There we go. Counterclockwise like that. Okay, so two things next. All right, the flywheel extractor is out. So take that washer, put it to the side, and also on the crankshaft, If you can see inside, there is a Woodruff key. So after you take the flywheel off and you have that washer out, there, I already took the stator off. I'll show you how to do the stator in the next step, but on top, okay, this is where the stator, this isn't between the stator, there is this Woodruff key, right? Woo! And make sure you get this when you're taking the stator off. It's very small, and it sits in a little nook right there. And put that off to the side with the washer. The next thing you're gonna do is, okay, so all the stator wires coming up through there, you're gonna unhook them. I already did it, but make sure all of these are unhooked. And then you're gonna kind of feed them down in there a little bit. And then we're gonna unscrew on this model. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. We're gonna unscrew. Then we can take the stator off and slowly pull those wires through. I'm just making note. This is the original manufacturer's stator, and it works a little bit differently. But I guess maybe for later on, I'll just show you. Those are the marks right there for top dead center, and then, yeah, top dead center. All right, and there's the old original stator out. So now I'll get into some of the reasons I needed to do timing and do all this. So I got a new Ducati CDI ignition system. So here's what the old one looked like. It was really inconvenient because the CDI is on the battery side right here, and the actual coil is on the other side, so right here. So all of these wires run through the underneath the seat, and it's just more convenient. Like, so this is an all-in-one system. The coil is inside there, all the wires go straight from there into the stator. It's just more convenient, more sturdy. I'm going to move that bracket to the engine later, so it's more sturdy as well, but this is just what I'm doing for right now. So anyway, I wired all of the CDI through. I took the seat out to do this, and I wired all those through. So when I did that, I didn't realize the stator doesn't trigger with that particular unit. So I needed to get a new stator. To get a new stator, you also have to get a new flywheel. So, and I'll show you why. So this is the OEM, this is the one I just took out, and it has an external trigger point, which corresponds to that right there on the back side of the flywheel. This is my new one. This is actually, if you look for it online, I'll list the parts. So with this system, you need another flywheel, which you can see. I won't get into the technicals too much, but very different. When you get one, make sure it has the starter gear on it, or else you can't use your starter motor. So next up, I'm going to put this in. Okay, so I fed the wires. There's the stator wires. Fed them back up through there, and you're gonna have to do, your wires aren't gonna look exactly, the connectors aren't gonna look like mine. I had to do some splicing because, yeah, you're gonna have to do some splicing and connecting too, because the original CDI wires aren't gonna match up with these. So initially when I took the flywheel and the stator off, I realized there was a lot of oil around here. I cleaned it up already, but so I was reading about that. It said I probably need to replace that oil seal. So I'm about to do that really quick. Well, I've got the flywheel off. Okay, so to do this, I got a new oil seal. I'll list the parts. You need a little bit of 2-stroke motor oil. I got this this bearing driver kit. It was supposed to work, but it's not big enough to go around the crank, so I'm gonna have to try something else. It's in that pack. To get the old oil seal out, I'm very gently, I have a really small screwdriver, pried it out with that. Another method you could use is to tap or screw a small screw in, or drill a small screw in just a little bit, and then pull the screw with some pliers. Or there's actually a hook that you can get. I'll list a link to that as well, but I just use, you're really not supposed to put any pressure on the crank, but on the crankshaft, but I did what I could right now. Next, I'm gonna put a little bit of two-stroke motor oil around the inner circle and the outer rim to make it go on a little bit easier. When you put this on, make sure that goes on first, like that. So since I ordered the wrong driver kit, I don't even know if they have a right one, but so what you can do is put the old one on backwards, so that part is out, and then tap on that with, I'm gonna use a screwdriver or something, I'm not sure, but tap on that so that you're not putting any pressure or any punctures on the new seal, so that you can tap the new one into place. All right, so I'm gonna take the old one off. Got that nice and sealed in. So you might want to do yourself a favor and buy like 2 oil seals just in case you puncture one, because I wasn't careful the first time I did it and I punctured it. So yeah, I had to do this twice. And then you can test it and make sure the crank is still moving around okay, and the seal is not coming out. I'm kicking it. All right. So next, I'm gonna try to clean out that woodruff slot a little bit. So I cleaned out that. It looks a lot better. I just used some Q-tips and a little bit of nail polish remover with acetone. So next, what I'm gonna do is called taper lapping. What this does is, so here's your flywheel. Your flywheel sits on there. You have the woodruff key, but that's not actually what keeps the flywheel from spinning around. What keeps it from spinning around is the actual taper. This is the lapping compound. It's a valve grinding and lapping compound. Essentially, or ideally you could get a 400 grit, or like I think it's a very fine application. I don't know. 400 grit is what I was told. And they sent me this. The best kind I saw was Goodson, and I was gonna get Goodson, but it was gonna take a while to get shipped here, so I went with this one instead. I'll put the link for Goodson down below as well. But yeah, so anyway, I had already started this a little bit, but you take your lapping compound, put it around there, around where the flywheel goes. Try not to get it on your oil seal. Actually, really try not to get it on your oil seal. So now I'm going to take a little bit and put it around the circle in there. Well, you're going to put your flywheel on without the woodruff key in, obviously. And since my flywheel turns clockwise, I'm going to turn this counterclockwise. Just keep turning it around in the same direction. Don't turn it back and forth. And I'm going to do this for about 5 minutes. Okay, so that's grinding. That's chips. So you're actually grinding the metal. It should look about the same inside. So that's what lapping is, and it leaves, it leaves laps, so that your flywheel and your crankshaft are completely matched. And yeah, if you get a new flywheel like I did, you definitely need to do this. So next, I'm going to clean all of the metal off, all the little chips, and I'm gonna make sure that I clean all of the lapping compound off. And to do that, I'm gonna use acetone. When you're doing this, don't just, you know, obviously wipe the metal off there, but don't get any acetone near the oil still. Now I'm taking a few Q-tips and with some acetone on them, and I'm getting down in the Woodruff key slot. Make sure you get all the compound out of there as well. All right, so that's what that looks like. Looks so much better, oh my gosh. So you can see all of the fine little laps on there. And those are gonna match up perfectly to the flywheel. So yeah, next I'm going to do the same thing with the acetone and wipe out inside of there. Then I'll show you the laps in there that match up. Obviously get off all the little metal chips. So that's the inside of the flywheel. See how that all marks up. All right, so now that the lapping's done, I'm going to put the stator back on, get into the timing. So first thing I want to do is, obviously you're going to feed these wires up through there, and you can reconnect them. And then we're going to loosely put on those screws. The one with the external trigger point, I went ahead and put that screw back up there, but you don't have to do that. Now what I'm going to do is line up the A mark with the mark down there. And what that means is, okay, so this should be standard. Where'd it go? Okay, so the timing should be the same with the stator, which is 18 degrees before top dead center. So what these marks mean is Italian. A means anticipado, which is advance, and IT means ritardato, which is slower or after. So that's before and that's after top dead center. So I have all the 3 screws, you know, screwed in loosely, and now I'm going to line up the A mark with the engine case mark. I'm going to screw the stator in tightly, and that should take a lot of guesswork out of the firing point, but you may not have this on yours. You may not have those marks, so I'm about to show you. I want to test it anyways to make sure it's accurate, so I'm going to show you how to find top dead center for your timing. Alright, so that's lined up. Next thing I'm going to do is push the kick pedal until the Woodruff keyhole is at a place where I can put it in near the top, right there. So with the Woodruff key, this will save you a little time. What I did, just dab a tiny piece, just a tiny bit of Vaseline on the curved part, and that'll make it easier to kind of stay in there, because it wants to pop out when you put the flywheel on, and if that happens, you're gonna have to redo all of this. You'll just be a waste of time. Now this is gonna really help too. I'm marked and kind of lined up down there. It's not focusing right, but where the Woodruff key, where the flywheel needs to line up with that, because that can be a real pain getting that on there. And you want to make sure the Woodruff key doesn't fall out, so make yourself a little mark on the end. Now we're going to put the flywheel back on, so obviously you're going to line up that mark with that on the end and push it in. Yeah, first try got that. Next you're going to put the washer back on, and then the nut, and tighten it as much as you can by hand. Might be easier with the socket to help you once you get it started. Okay, that's pretty okay. Probably should have put the flywheel holder on first, but now's a good time to put your flywheel holder back on. So flywheel holder's on, nuts screwed in by hand as much as I could. Now I'm taking a torque wrench and it's set to 45 foot-pounds, and I'm going to tighten that until the torque clicks. Okay, I had to use a little elbow grease to do this, but that is 45 foot-pounds. Now, once again, take the flywheel puller back off. Okay, next thing you're gonna do is take your spark out and the piston stop. I'll post a link to that, but you're gonna take a piston stop and you're gonna screw it in. So the one I have, you can screw it in more or less. I'm going to screw it in the least amount I can because the closer it is to top dead center, the more accurate it is. So I'm gonna leave it right there right now. It's pretty near the top, and screw that in. All right, so I've got that screwed in. What you're gonna do is kind of rock it until it stops. Don't push it, just kind of slightly roll it around. You can see where the piston is stopped. Okay, so alright, well, I'm gonna have to move the Woodruff key again because I can tell this is shifting around. So I'm gonna have to adjust that. What I did with the screw in the top, it was way too far out, so I did have to screw that in more. Here's where we get into it. So we're gonna measure for top dead center. So to do that, okay, so a few things to take into consideration. This flywheel spins clockwise. So before my top dead center is going to be to the right of top dead center. So that's a point for a little bit later on. But okay, so first thing you're going to do is, you know, very carefully spin it clockwise until it stops. So it stopped right there. I'm going to make a mark that lines up with that screw on the flywheel. You can make a mark anywhere on the engine case that lines up to the flywheel at this point. I just saw the screw right there. That place would be convenient. So that's where I'm going to make my first mark. You can see there's already marks here, so I'm going to make mine a little bit more prevalent. Okay, so there's my point right there. Now we're going to spin this back around clockwise slowly. And that's where it stops there. So I'm going to make a point on the top. I hate it that there's marks right there, but I'm going to make a point on the top that lines up right there. Okay, so that's it right there. Yours will be a lot easier to do without these marks on here. Ignore that. Ignore my fingernails. Okay, so that's mark 2. There's mark 1. So in between those two marks is your top dead center. So this is what's actually going on inside of your cylinder when you're finding top dead center. So this really helps me. So mine is clockwise. So move it clockwise first with the piston stop in. So what's going on is that's rising as much as it can to the top, right? It's not going to be at the top. It's not going to be at top dead center, but it's going to be close. So your piston stop is going to stop the flywheel, right? So that's one side of it. And then you do the flywheel counterclockwise the other way until it stops again, which is on the other side of the piston, which would be when it was coming back down. So in the middle of up and down is where it's at top dead center at the very top. So that's what that means. So you make your reference point on the engine case. For me, it's the screw. That's my reference point. Turn it clockwise until it stops. Don't do it hard. Turn it clockwise and then match up the place where it stops to your mark on the engine case. In my case, the screw. Then you turn it back counterclockwise again until it stops, the piston stops it. And then you make a second mark on the flywheel to match the reference point on the engine case, which is my screw. And then, so right in between those two marks that you made is where your top dead center is, on there. So with my stator, the specs for it are 18 degrees before top dead center. So what that means is the piston is still rising up before it hits top dead center. Your spark plug is going to fire when the flywheel is at 18 degrees before, which is just the specs for the stator, for most of the Stella stuff, I think. So that's what all that means technically. So what we're going to do now is we're going to measure for top dead center. And now I'm going to show you how to make this degree wheel. So this is how you're going to get into the degree wheel, how to print out a degree wheel online. Gonna enter block layer. Okay, there it is up there. blocklayer.com/degree-wheel. Go in there, then close all this crap out. Okay, then I'm gonna go over to outer diameter, and that's gonna be 200 because it's 200 millimeters. Okay, and then the whole diameter, what did I put this on at? 30 millimeters. And then you don't have to worry about all that. I uncheck that, and then I don't care about color, so I'm turning color off, and that's all you have to really worry about there. Then if you want to, you can go down here and put a name on it. I just like to put 200 millimeter diameter. Text, puts it up there. And that's what it looks like. And then we're gonna go down. I like to print off the ruler too, so go down to diagrams PDF. Close all that out. Hang on. La la la. Close all that out. And then ignore all this crap. Okay. Keep going down until it says all to PDF. Click that. So there's my desktop. Then you got your printable stuff. So now it'll just, Now you can just print all that and cut it out. And you have a degree disc. All right, I cut out the wheel and the ruler. So what I think I'm gonna do, like, you can try it with the, like, putting this over the flywheel, but the Stella flywheel's got slants and I just don't really trust that method. So what I'm gonna do is gonna mark this. Okay, yes, so marked that at 18 degrees before top dead center, because you're spinning that way. And that's going to be before it hits top dead center. It's going to roll there first. So marked that. Then I'm going to line this up across the top with the top dead center right there. And I'm going to measure the mark on there, because I think what I'm going to do is wrap the ruler around the outside of the flywheel to get a better marking. I think that's going to be more accurate. So I can't do this with one hand, but that's roughly where it's going to be. So I wrap that around and matched up at about 275. So when I wrap this around the outer part of the flywheel, mark up, put my top dead center mark, line that up, and then that'll be 18 degrees before top dead center. And that's what you're going to mark on your flywheel. So now I'm going to try it with my ruler. That's my, what was that? Oh, that's 18 degrees to the right of top dead center. So ignore that right now. What you're going to do is take this ruler and measure, where are my marks? I'm going to measure in between those two places. All right, so from one mark up there to the other one, it is 150. So half of 150 is 75. So I'm gonna measure from one mark to the other. 75 will be right in between those two marks. And that will be my top dead center. That's how you measure for that. So on the top of the flywheel right there, I marked it, so it's very clear that is my top dead center. I spun the flywheel around so it was easier for me to access this. Okay, so I marked the flywheel, so there's no question. That is my top dead center right now. Line that up at my top dead center on the ruler. To the right, right there, mark in red, that is 18 degrees before top dead center. I think what I'm going to do, when it gets a little darker, I'm going to be able to do the strobe. I can't do it right now, but I'm going to get some acetone and take all of the other previous marks off of there so you can see it better. But there is my 18 degree mark. So when the strobe light hits this, so what the strobe light is going to do is it's plugged into the spark plug wire. So it fires when the spark plug fires. The spark plug is supposed to fire at 18 degrees before top dead center. So when it fires, that mark should be lined up with the screw. So that's what we're looking for under the light. It's going to be that red should be showing only by that screw. So now we're going to put the spark plug in we're going to take the piston stop out, put the spark plug in the cap back in, and then wait until it's dark. So this is what it looks like without the screw. This is just a regular flashlight. So this time I moved it all the way to the A right there. So it's as far as it can go. I'm gonna do everything I did before, put it all back together, try again with the timing gun. All right, I remarked it, I redid my top dead center and degree sign, and look at it now. just going to put the nut cap back on. Boom. Okay, put that back on, and I'm going to unscrew the ground up there and then reconnect all three of those with the fan cover. And the fan cover piece goes underneath the plastic right there. So I got the first one up there started. Make sure you don't forget the ground wire right there, because that actually goes to the battery. It's the main ground wire. So don't forget to put that back in there. And then I'm gonna put the gearbox cover back on top of the fan cover. Screw those back in. And that's a wrap. It's a very good feeling to do this by yourself. Hope this helps.